Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of how to use ChatGPT to improve your GCSE English language. Today we're going to be focusing on comparison, which for Edexcel is worth around 20 marks and in other papers is still worth a sizable chunk of marks. It's also a question that people tend to struggle with because it doesn't come up as much as, say, analysis or evaluation. But done properly, you can guarantee yourselves a very decent amount of marks, at the top end of which will jump you not just one but two grades up. So let's get started. So one of the biggest problems is how do we get extracts to compare, and how do we understand and objectify the idea of a perspective? So I've designed a prompt today, which is all about asking it to produce two similar but different extracts. So here it is, and let's read it together. So I've said the task is following the mark scheme for GCSE language, English language, Edexcel. Insert your own awarding body there if you need to. Please produce two short non-fiction style extracts. Of course, you can change that to fiction or one fiction, one non-fiction, depending, around the topic of freedom and hope. I've chosen that topic because it's fairly obvious and contemporary, but you can change your own as well, where the authors have similar and different ideas and perspectives on this topic. Then we go into our do include. I want obvious language and structure techniques because it always helps to identify. From comparison, so looking at the mark scheme and thinking of how, comparing those different language and structure techniques might go. I've asked for some context and explanation of the extract, which details what sort of text it is and who wrote it in italics before each extract, which is exactly how it appears in the paper, so I'm trying to keep this as relevant as I can. I've asked for a differing sense of author voice. This is just to make sure that the perspectives and ideas are separate. I've also asked to include a question that is along the lines of compare the similarities and differences both authors have towards an aspect of freedom and hope. You would, of course, change that bit there to whatever you'd asked it to be up here. Okay. And I've also asked it to allow me to ask it questions as well. It's important to have that in there just in case it tries to resist or it doesn't give very helpful answers. So it knows it has to be helpful following the extract. So I said, do not include obvious text explanations or answers. Always good to do that because ChatGPT, trying to be helpful, will maybe try and lead you a bit strongly to an answer it wants. I gave it some context, saying I'm a GCSE English language student trying to improve my comparison skills but struggle identifying perspective ideas. This is just to remind it that it needs to be friendly and it needs to be helpful and it can't try and overcomplicate things. So here we go. We can press enter on that and we're going to wait. Here we go. Okay, so it's done that now. And again, it's given you that context as you required. So it's made up a travel memoir from a Marisol Reyes, who's basically journeying around the world. And again, it's given you a nice short paragraph, so nothing you have to spend too long analysing. And again, I can already see some fantastic sensory language, some sort of maybe metaphor for how she feels, some quotes, some questions. And then down we have another one, a community activist and motivational speakers about hope and social change. And you can see that already it's a much more direct, encouraging piece. So while we have a more introspective one here, we have a more extroverted one here. So it said, compare the similarities both authors have towards an aspect of freedom and hope. So in this case, you would say, okay, what aspect? So let's try and get this thing to ask us a better question. So ask me a better question about a theme within freedom and hope in the style that I requested. Again, it's going to think about this for a little while. Let's see what it does. Here we are. How do both writers use personal and collective experience to explore the transformative power of freedom and hope? In what ways do they contrast each other's viewpoints? So it's not done it in the style I wanted, but that's not necessarily a problem because it is allowing me to compare quite obviously. So now what we're going to do is we're going to ask it very simple questions. I'm going to say, because one easy way to kind of compare a perspective is you've got a masculine perspective with a feminine perspective here. So I'm going to ask it, how can I compare the a masculine versus feminine perspective here? Can you guide me to some quotes, please? So again, look, it's pointing at the sensory language, open questions, whereas he has a more masculine perspective and it's a unified call to action. Look at these military terms here, which kind of add that masculine energy, of course. So it then gives you tons and tons of advice of how to compare it. And you can then write that as a short answer and even give it to ChatGPT to talk about. So that is how you use ChatGPT to help you with your comparison style questions in GCSE language. Change it to how it would suit you. Ensure that you are reading the responses and making sure it's giving you the answers you want, because if it doesn't, you can always request different or changed questions depending on whether you even understand it. ChatGPT will respond to you, but only if you tell it what you think. Again, these prompts will all be in the comments below or the video information. So give them a go. Let me know how you get on, and don't forget, if you don't learn to use AI, AI will learn to use you.